Welcome to this new episode of Casted to the King. I'm your host, Joshua Mickle, and I'm so glad that you were able to be part of the show and watching or listening to it today, wherever you may be listening on Apple Podcasts or here on YouTube. The reason there has not been an episode in what has been almost a month, if not over a month, since the last one I did with Zach Van Blericom and his brother Corey, is what you see behind me. Is our big Super Bowl event that we plan and do every single year. It'll be my first time ever doing it as an official staff member at the Life Church, whereas last time I was here, it was actually last year, and I wasn't a staff member there, but they essentially almost treated me like one in what they called a trial run. I mean, they didn't call it anything. They just said, hey, do you want to come down and help out? And ultimately, it turned out to be like the ultimate tryout of sorts, trial by fire, to see if they were going to hire me. And as we're sitting here today, I'm here in Tennessee. I got the job, ultimately. The reason there has not been an episode for the last number of weeks is because of this conference and the stage project that we have been doing as a production team at the Life Church that we have undertook for ourselves. And what I have been told is by far the most ambitious, and what I've also been told, it's the most work they've done to the stage since they've opened that new auditorium building in Cairville here at Houston Levy in the Memphis, Tennessee metropolitan area. It's the most work they've done with it. The results are looking fantastic. If you're watching, if anyone there from production team is watching, Marcus Rowe, Will Turner, Angie Farrow, Rochelle Rowe, Brian Petrie, Taylor, Esteban, Austin, Shaston, like anyone from audio, production, creative that has been hands-on with all this. I just want to say, coming from me as one of your compadres, one of your coworkers, and some of you and most of you I consider as really good friends, is we've all done our part. It's such an amazing job we've done with the stage, and I mean I know I'm not in charge. I mean that's between Angie and Brian, but I just want to say to all of you, especially to you, Angie and Brian, how much your leadership has meant to us as a staff, as a production team. And I can't wait for us to finally unveil the finished product for the whole congregation to see, especially for Axis coming up soon in less than 2 weeks, which there is I'm playing it as it's more so of a joke per se. Like I'll go on Instagram and do this sort of thing where I'll pretend to be an insider and whatnot. And so, I mean, it was mentioned the other day that Pastor Parker, mentioned to us and the entire staff that over 1,500 spots have been filled for this upcoming conference for the youth group. Last year, we sold out to close to, not exactly 2,000, but we were getting close to that number. So from what I gather is over 1,500 or 1,600 spots that have already been filled. And for those of you that are watching that are Axis students and haven't signed up yet for Axis Conference, do yourself a favor and just go. Just like Parker said in one of his sermons a few weeks ago, just go. And don't let money be the reason that you can't go, because it's not a reason, because it's I mean, we as a church, and I can't speak on this personally. I mean, I haven't been in this particular position, but I know in terms of scholarships of what they do with the church for anything youth related or mission trip related, we have a fantastic staff. We really do have a fantastic staff. And just go. I mean, I can honestly speak as a former Axis student when I used to come to the Life Church when I lived here from 2009 to 2013. More Tribal Wars teams, by the way. The one I was on 2011 called Turquoise, like a green and blue mixture. We actually won a championship, so we don't have our banner in the rafter, so don't let that. I mean, That's just selfish talk right there. But as an Access student that I used to be, it really does leave an impact on you going forward. It really does leave an impact on your life. And so, just to make it simple, I mean, I'm here 10 years later, thriving as a member of the church, and I love to serve the youth. What that ministry has done for me personally has, especially at those conferences, have helped given me the tools when I left Access, when my family moved to Virginia when I was living there for over 10 years, or coming up on 10 years, actually, where I took those principles from Access Conference and applied them to my life the best I could, not only in there, but also in my schooling, in my marriage life, in my family life, like all of it. So if you're a student and you're watching this, just go. Like, you're going to have a fantastic time at the conference. So just do yourself a favor and go. All right, with that little spiel out of the way, on to the main show here today. And we're going to start off with what just broke today, actually, the suspension of Ja Morant. And he is going to be out for 25 games to start out the 2023-2024 season. And he is slated to be back in December for the Memphis Grizzlies. What do I think? Why do I think about the suspension? Funny enough, I have had 2 podcast episodes where, like, almost immediately something happens. Like, I immediately film something with Ja Morant or anything Memphis Grizzlies related. I remember 2 podcast episodes where that happened, and then that same day, unaware of the social media world, that be me, unaware on my end, is that apparently I defend Ja or I defend the Grizzlies, and then that same day Ja gets into something ridiculous, whether it be in Denver after I filmed a thing with Aaron Austin and MJ, or the last one with Zach and Corey. That same day with Zach and Corey evidently was the second IG Live instance with Ja Morant. So what do I think about this trade overall? I mean, trade. We ain't trading him. What do I think about the suspension? It's just, and it's appropriate. And, I mean, there's nothing more you can... I mean, Miles Bridges, again, suspend... Like, if you're going to look at, like, a totem pole of, like, tiers of suspensions and whatnot, and what's like, severity going up, you get more games or something. Miles Bridges was charged with assault, and he got, like, 30 games to start out this season. Below him is Ja Morant sporting a gun on social media, and he's getting 25 games. 2-time offender with that. Yes, it's not a crime to be doing that, but according to the NFL, it's the same way. Because, I mean, me being a staunch NFL fan, I can tell you straight up, like, it'll be the same way in the NFL. There's an Oakland Raiders player that I'm aware of. I can't remember his name. He's the corner of not Oakland, the Las Vegas Raiders corner, where he sported on social media a rifle, like a loaded rifle. I mean, I don't know if it was loaded or not. He was sporting a rifle on social media, and I think he was wearing like a gas mask or something. It got cut by the team, just flat out cut. I don't know if he's on another roster right now, or if he's just out of the NFL completely. We live in a world. I mean, no, not live in a world. How do I put this? The NFL and NBA have similar conduct policies when it comes to the shield with the NFL, and when it comes to the brand of the NBA with the association there. If you do something on social media or anywhere else in society that can damage the brand of of said institution that you work for, then it's punishable. I can say personally for me, if me as a church member am seen on social media sporting like 2 handguns or a rifle, and I'm spewing out nonsense or whatnot, like if I did what Ja Morant did at the strip club in Denver, or in a car listening to, like quoting those lyrics and whatnot in the car, I know I'd be fired, or at the minimum, I'd be relieved of my duties, not necessarily fired, but I would be relieved of my duties, and I would have to go into some serious counseling, like some serious sessions with one of our pastors at the church. So you work for an institution, like, yes, you have your rights with the Second Amendment in the United States of America. But the moment you work for an institution, they have rules that you have to follow. Like in the NFL, for the longest time, I don't know if it's much of a big deal now because they allow some of it now. But back in the early 2010s or in up to 2015, 2016, 17, 18, I think 2020 was like at the point where it's like we'll allow some of it, not all of it. Where there was a point in the 2010s where someone would get caught or they would test positive for marijuana, getting high, smoking weed. Yeah, it's not illegal if you do it in a particular state. But if your employer, who you work for, who you represent, says it is illegal in their books, then it's illegal. You can't be doing that. With the conduct detrimental policy with the NFL and the NBA, it's the same thing. You can't be putting yourself out there that will hurt the image of your institution that you work for. So I think 25 games is just. After hearing Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, was asked about it before the draft lottery this year. After hearing him, I'm like, I'd be shocked if he doesn't get 35 games. So the fact he got 25, good. He's 10 less games on suspension if I was the commissioner, apparently. But what this does, and I think I read somewhere, that with the 25-game suspension is that John Morant will not be eligible for all NBA or any MVP voting this year. Per the new CBA that they have enacted, that you need to play a minimum of 65 games in order to qualify for MVP, like Sixth Man of the Year, Most Improved Player, like any of those awards, including like all NBA teams. You have to be eligible by playing 65 games minimum. And the 25 games does it with John Morant. And what I read somewhere is that disqualifies John Morant for ever reaching the Supermax contract. So he now is getting paid a salary over the next some odd years he's with us. Not 240 or 235 million. He's now getting paid 195, like 185 million. It's just under $200 million that he's now going to get paid now. And I mean, there's nothing more I can say about John Morant. I mean, outside, I want to root for him. What he's done to revive the city with the on the basketball side, bringing national attention that we haven't had in a long while. Even during our grit and grind years, we haven't had this much notoriety of sorts for the city in quite some time, if ever, for the Memphis Grizzlies sporting teams. And I hope he learns. I hope he gets well. And I'm sure he's not a bad guy, but the image of him being this wannabe gangster, wanting to be like right now, the image of him right now is that some folks view him as a punk. And I can see their point of view of how they view that way, especially if you take into account there was an instance in 2020 when the NBA was about to restart their season amidst the bubble, which in hindsight, with the whole 2020 stuff, nothing should have ever been shut down. But that's a whole other topic for another day. In 2020, if you connect these two instances with him brandishing the gun on IG 2 times the way he did, in strip club and then the car ride with his buddy, which he supposedly unfollowed on all the socials. So, hey, if that's progress, I guess. But someone pointed out to me the other day that this isn't the first or second time that John Morant has shown like his colors of how he sees himself as a human being per se. And I said, what do you mean? Like, when has he shown other things of like that would raise a red flag for you. And he's shown me and reminded me actually, and it had to be a while for me to jog in my memory about like, hey, what is he talking? Like, what are you talking about? And he showed me a then deleted tweet or Instagram post that John Morant posted when the NBA announced that they're going to do statement names on the back of jerseys like Black Lives Matter, vote, like Black Lives Matter, all the sort of things that you can put on a jersey. But you couldn't put on there Free Hong Kong. So you couldn't put on there anything else. Just they had selective wording. If they had, like, I would be for that as a fan if they said, like, blanket policy, as long as it's not explicitive, you can put whatever you want on the back of your jersey for this 2020 bubble season. So anything from Free Hong Kong or, like, Crisis King, like that sort of thing, I'd be all for. And I think a unanimous amount of people will be all for. But it wasn't like that, unfortunately. So getting to the point, John Morant posted on Instagram what he wanted to wear. And it was FUCK on the back of his jersey and then sporting the number 12, which is derogatory towards police as a whole. To where, I mean, there's nothing more to say to that is, I mean, that right there just says it right there. He deleted it, he apologized for it, and I thought, you know what? Someone probably got a hold of him, maybe his teammates or maybe his dad or whoever, and probably said to him, it's like, hey, don't be posting stuff like this. Like, you're trying to build it. You're still a rookie. You're still a rookie when you post this. You don't want to be building up the image that is anti anything, like anti like on hot button topics. You don't want to be putting yourself out there like that because you're trying to build a brand for yourself. You're trying to build a brand for the team, and you're trying to bring as much people as you can together. You don't want to alienate a vast portion of your audience that may support you. And so I took his apology like that. And I still do. I still think that apology that he made about that post, which he photoshopped his jersey like that, I accept that apology. The first time he did the instance with the strip club and the gun after the Denver Nuggets game, I didn't know what to say. Like, I was shocked. I was just shocked. And he apparently went down to a Florida rehab center for about a week or so, or 2 weeks, or however long it was. I don't want to assume things because maybe it may have been a month. I don't know. According to John Morant himself. And we want to believe him. We want to be that sort of thing where it's, hey, we're rooting for you. We support you. You're still young. You still got a lot, like, there's still much to learn, and we want you to succeed in life. And the podcast episode I just did with my dad when he was here, we both agreed that when something like that happens, you have to earn the respect of not only your teammates, your brothers, but you got to earn the respect of the coaches, the GM and owner that selected you in the first place to help represent the team. And that means a lot, especially coming from the coaches that are trying to entrust you as the face of the franchise, and then you do that. It wasn't a good look for him. He inevitably came back. Most Grizzlies fans want to bicker at me saying, there's no way he's not going to start when he initially comes back. Yeah, he wasn't starting initially when he came back. So points for me for common sense right there for some of the Grizzlies fans out there on the socials. And then after the season ended, John Morant did what he did with his joyride instance, brandishing the gun. I don't know what to believe. Like, I'll still be rooting for him. I'll still be rooting for my Grizzlies, the Memphis Grizzlies. This banner will still be here because they're still a really good team to root for. And I still remember the time when I first fell in love with this team. My love for this team, when I first fell in love with them in 2011, it will never waver. I still love this team. I love the players on this team. I love John Morant as a player. But as a person, he has to get better. He has to make better choices. And until he can get together, I mean, he's on thin ice. Because I think if one more instance of this or anything similar or egregious happens like this, he's done. He's done with the Memphis Grizzlies, and I don't think another team is going to want to touch him based on how the climate is in the NBA of how they view particular things. If one more thing happens like this with a gun, he's going to be suspended for like a year or so. If he does something more egregious, like commits a crime, then he's done for his career. His career goes down to tubes if something like that happens to him now. That's how much margin of an error he has right now. And he has to be very careful. He has to be very careful as a human being. He has to be very careful conducting himself for the rest of the off season. And while that happens, I mean, we can't let our eyes off the ball as the Memphis Grizzlies team. That we got to improve our small forward position. Thank the Lord, the news came out that Dylan Brooks is no longer going to be with the team. Thank the Lord that's the case, because we need to improve our small forward. Whether that be getting a Miles Bridges and we don't have him for 30 games, or we somehow miraculously trade for Mikal Bridges over in Brooklyn, or Dorian Finney-Smith over in Brooklyn, or what's more likely looking like the case, OG Anunoby out of Toronto. Fred VanVleet opt out of his player option. He's going to be a free agent. They just hired a new head coach. The Grizzlies' assistant head coach being that. It's looking like they're get outside of Pascal Siakam, who's there. They're ready to blow it up. They're ready to blow it up as an organization, ready to start fresh and new. The only piece they have there is OG, who's going to be a trading asset this offseason, and Pascal Siakam. Like anyone else there, like there's no prominent name that makes you go, hey, this team's going to be vouching for a playoff spot for the next 3, 4, 5 years. No, there's none of that in Toronto. There's not. And, yeah, just hoping for better things for John Morant going forward. And we're going to do one more sports topic, and then we're going to get into our triple header of movie reviews. So, I am a Grizzlies fan for basketball. I am a Tennessee Titan fan for football. I am reluctant to be a Titan fan in the sense of this team has stabbed my heart so many times as such a young person. I deserve better things in life. We all deserve better things in life with the Titans. They could be doing better. They don't do better. When you think they're going to do great, they just slip on the banana peel and everyone laughs at us. So, with how last season ended and how this coaching staff wanted to throw one Malik Willis, the quarterback we drafted in the third round out of Liberty, under the bus this year with all the moves they've made and with the drafting of Will Levis out of Kentucky in the second round, who we traded up for. And then Rand Carthon was asked, hey, what do you traded up to get a quarterback in the second round? The top pick in the second round, essentially the first pick in the second round at 33 overall. One pick outside of the first round. So, what is your thought process? What's your thought process on that? And he says, it's a good value pick. You don't do value picks for quarterbacks. If you pick a quarterback in one of the first 3 rounds, or in the Cowboys' case, first 4 rounds with Dak Prescott, if you pick a quarterback in those first 3, 4 rounds, you have an inkling on your mind that you want this quarterback to succeed and be your franchise quarterback for the future. So we pick up Will Levis, had a good 2021 year, had a horrendous 2022 year, throwing interceptions off the wazoo. And as me not being a staunch Tennessee Vols fan, I enjoyed what I watched from the 2022 Vols, and they should have gotten in that 4th spot in the college football playoffs. We might be talking about a whole different scenario if TCU's not in there and Tennessee is. They didn't have a really good defense. It was good enough. It was good enough to slightly hold back that last inkling of Alabama-ness or whatever they were facing off against Florida last year. Just enough to be good. Not great. Not world beaters on defense. They play Will Levis in 2022. Less than 100 yards passing and 3 INTs through 3 quarters. And that was his final stat line because they pulled him. Because the game was out of reach. And now he's a Tennessee Titan. So what we have heard in training camp, no, not training camp, in OTAs and minicamp is when you set the picture like that, you have a quarterback that you just drafted last year in the 3rd round in Malik Willis out of Liberty. Doesn't do well on the field. The coaches essentially crucify him and don't give him the last 2 games to start. Then they draft a quarterback 1 round higher this year with a new GM in place of Rand Carthon working hand in hand with Mike Vrabel. You're thinking, oh, they're putting the pieces together to make Will Levis succeed, and inevitably come training camp or when the final 53-man roster comes down, they're going to can Malik Willis. Wrong you may be. As it turns out, Will Levis, at least in the practices so far, has not looked good. Has not looked good. If you want him to be your backup quarterback and if you're trying to can Malik Willis. He's not looking good. He's looking like your 3rd quarterback right now. And from Malik Willis's point of view, according to Sam Fallon, who we've had on the show, he's a to Z Sports Tennessee Titans insider. According to him, according to Paul Kuharski, reputable insider, all in time for the Tennessee Titans, according to them and others, Malik Willis have made vast improvements on the field, passing, and has outperformed Will Levis in these practices. Now, if training camp comes around and and this continues, the preseason comes, Malik Willis does better than Will Levis in the preseason games. Malik Willis is your number 2 quarterback. And thanks to the new NFL rule, where you can have a 3rd quarterback as your emergency quarterback, he won't count towards your 53-man. Like he won't count against the 40-some-odd players that you dress on Sunday out of your 53-man roster. He will not count against that if a player will not count against that if he is your 3rd emergency break glass in case of emergency quarterback, due to what happened with the 49ers last year in the NFC Championship game. Both quarterbacks go down. They got no quarterbacks for the rest of the game, essentially. So now it's looking like if that scenario plays out, and if the practices hold true, Malik Willis is the backup quarterback again. And Will Levis, who this staff and this management class that we have here with Rand and others, wanted Will Levis to be the backup quarterback. And if that's not the case, and Malik Willis is your number 2, then you're going into 2024 with an open quarterback competition between Malik Willis and Will Levis. Because Tannehill's not, outside of him winning the Super Bowl, Ryan Tannehill is not going to be with us in 2024. The only reason he is with us is because we are paying him $36 million. Oh my God, just saying that just makes me want to puke. But that's the fact, unfortunately. If we cut him before cut him before June 1st, we would have only had to pay him $18 million, but he will only count against $18 million against the cap. So we could have freed up half that money. We could still cut him right now, and we could save $27 million. But that rest of the money that we owe him would spread into next season and the year after. So they could have just cut their hands clean and like cut the chains clean of Tannehill this offseason before June 1st and say, you know what? We'll pay you the $18 million, but you're not going to be with us on the team this year, so Go take a hike, essentially. Go sign somewhere else. You can't be with us. And we only pay you $18 million in it, and we free up $18 million cap space. We didn't do that. We're sticking with Tannehill. That's $36 million against the cap, and that's the only reason he's here. Any Titan fan that says to you that Tannehill's here because he's a good quarterback, he's a good quarterback, yes. But for those that want to go above and beyond and say Tannehill can lead us to playoff wins, etc., they're lying to you. They're lying to you because the only reason Tannehill is with this team is because we are paying him $36 million. If he was getting paid half that, he would have been cut last year. He would have been cut this offseason if he was getting paid half of that. He was getting paid $50-something million in 2022. Such a ridiculous number. And the only reason he was getting paid that much money is because when we brought in Julio Jones in 2021, John Robinson, our former GM, restructured Tannehill's deal to where the money he was going to, most of the money he was going to get in 2021 got pushed to 2022. And that's just the math right there. That's the only reason it didn't come last year, and that's the only reason we're not cutting him this year. It's because of money. Now, we go into 2024 with these two quarterbacks, Will Levis and Malik Willis, in a quarterback competition. For Mike Vrabel's sake and Rand Carthon's sake, for the sake of their imagery, if Malik Willis turns out to beat out Will Levis in a quarterback competition and he's your QB1 in 2024, that will be the ultimate egg on face thing to ever happen to this coaching staff. And if that happens, I will laugh my butt off. I will laugh my butt off all the way up to the Smoky Mountains and back through the Music City, coming back here to Bill Street. And then what that does in this scenario, if Malik Willis beats out Will Levis in a 2024 quarterback competition, 2024 becomes a prove-it year for Malik Willis, or whichever quarterback wins the competition that year. Prove it. You do well this year, you're a quarterback for the future. The Jalen Hurts treatment, which I have been arguing for most of this offseason, is what we should have done, is use 2023 with what little you have in cap space, with what little you can do with the roster. Use that as your evaluation year. Use that as your evaluation year. See what you got in Malik Willis. If he's not the guy, go draft a quarterback in the next year's draft, or go and get someone in free agency that's coming up on the books in 2024. Do that. You waste if that happens in this scenario where Malik Willis is QB1 in 2024, and let's say he turns out really good, you wasted a second-round pick on Will Levis that could have been a wide receiver for us this year. Could have been. And folks want to say, oh, we just followed the board. Like Rand Carthon, we just followed the board, our draft board, and that's why we drafted the players where we drafted. That's why we didn't pick a wide receiver in the first 3 rounds. Yes, you had to get that Northwestern offensive lineman. He was the best player on the board, and it was such a huge need for us. That is essential, yes. And then you use your next 2 picks to essentially be makeup picks from the last draft to replace Malik Willis and Hassan Haskins, the running back out of Michigan. You drafted Tajay Spears, the running back in the 3rd round, out of Tulane, who has knee issues. He doesn't have an ACL in the one knee. And I can't think of the term right now. There's something else in the knee that is astounding to think that we're a team that is hemorrhaging with injuries, that we want to go ahead and just go forward and say, hey, yeah, let's go ahead and draft this player that has a big red flag of injury histories. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. We're trying to build a better roster that can stay healthy this year, since we don't want to get rid of our strength and conditioning staff once again. Let's do that. Let's not draft a wide receiver in the third round. Let's draft Will Levis. We think he can be the quarterback of the future after Tannehill's done. We don't. Yeah, those are two rounds. At least the second round, where you could have either of the two Tennessee Vols wide receivers. You could have had Josh Downs. You could have had a bevy of wide receivers in this year's draft that you could have picked in the second round, but didn't. A wasted pick. And we have been burned as a franchise of wasted second-round picks. Kevin Dodd, anybody from Clemson? The other D lineman we drafted in the second round, that same draft, the third second-round pick we had that year turned out to be King Henry, which... Yes, you nailed that pick, John Robinson. You nailed that pick, Mike Vrabel, Tennessee Titans. Great job. Great job nailing that pick. Mike Vrabel wasn't with the team, actually. That was my malarkey. But still, John Robinson was still at the helm there. Great job nailing that pick. You screwed up on the two other ones. And if Will Levis is not your QB1 going forward, that's a wasted second-round pick. That's a wasted second-round pick that you could just re-sign Logan Woodside for to be your backup quarterback. You could just resign Logan Woodside at that point. But that's all what ifs and whatnot. We're just going to go into 2023 with Ryan Tannehill. We're going to run it back with the same offense mentality. We have a different play caller, which for Tim Kelly's sake, he is more creative with his play calling than Todd Downing ever was. We have a backup quarterback battle in Tennessee that for the coach's sake and Rand Carthon's sake, that Malik Willis does not overperform or does better than Will Levis. Because if that's the case, you screwed up. You screwed up royally with this here. You screwed up badly with the second-round pick here out of Kentucky. I want both to be great. I would love for both of them to be great, and then I can trade off the other. But that's not reality. That's unfortunately not reality because that's not the world we live in because we don't deserve nice things. Anyways. All right. Sorry for that diatribe. Now we move on to how do I want to do this? Do I want to get the bad stuff out of the way or the good stuff out of the way with these movie reviews? You know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to start with what I thought was the most underwhelming, and I'm going to work my way up to these three movies that I thought were really, like, on a totem pole. Bad, good, great. Here we are. First off, a movie I have been saying on this podcast and I have been watching. I remember this movie was first announced in 2014. They announced their initial DC EU universe lineup of films, Marvel-esque style. There's going to be a Flash movie in 2015, right after Justice League in 2018. There's going to be a Cyborg movie in 2020 with a Green Lantern Corps movie in 2020. There's supposed to be a sequel to Man of Steel. We were supposed to get the Ben Affleck Batman solo movie. None of those happened. The only ones that stuck the landing was Shazam, Aquaman, and eventually Black Adam that got made. Oh yeah, Justice League 2 didn't make the cut as well. And so for the longest time, they've been hyping up this movie for so long, and based on the trailers, based on what I heard from folks like in the medium spectrum that I pay attention to and if they say something, I'm like, oh wow, okay, then that carries some weight to what you're saying. Yes. Tom Cruise came out and said he loves this movie and this is the Top Gun Maverick of this year. Very bold words, because Top Gun Maverick is a great movie. It is a great, fantastic movie that I did commentary on this channel, by the way. This Flash movie is not that. This Flash movie is underwhelming. There are parts that I did laugh out loud a bit. There are some parts where I'm like, that makes no sense. There are some parts where I'm like, let me check the budget. It's $200 million. Over $200 million you made this movie. And that's the CGI we got? You said, like, I remember a report that came out about this movie that it was supposed to be, like, filming was done. Editing was done. The final cut is done. Well before the movie came out. I can't remember if it was in January or February or March of this year that it said, the movie's done. Or was it last year? Because this movie is supposed to come out last year. It didn't. Maybe that's why the movie got delayed to this month in June of 2023. Not because of COVID, not because of mandates of COVID-relatedness, not because of reshoots. Maybe this movie got delayed all along because this is such a subpar movie. This movie had Ant-Man 3 vibes. And not in a good way. Not the good vibes. Good vibes, not the good vibes, but CGI, on-off storytelling with a script. I expected more from this movie. I was so let down with this movie. Michael Keaton, let me just get the good stuff out of the way. Michael Keaton in this movie kicks serious butt. He really does. He is awesome in this movie. Every time he has dialogue, every time he's on the screen, it's dart in the middle, 10 out of 10. Unbelievable what Michael Keaton did with this movie, in this movie. Unbelievable. It was fantastic. Kara Zor-El, Supergirl. I can't remember the actress's name. She is fantastic with the role that she was given in this movie. For the role she was given in this movie, it's really fantastic. Batman with Ben Affleck, and spoiler warning, Wonder Woman is in this movie for like a cameo at the beginning of the movie. The dialogue in this movie was Joss Whedon Justice League-esque. It was not good. I was struggling a bit, especially with the dialogue between Batman, a thief, and Wonder Woman in this movie, and then Flash enters the scene, catching in on the conversation. It was so bad. It was just bad. I'm like, I wasn't covering my face or anything. I'm like, I'm just sitting there agape like, is this really what they went with the script? Is this what they really did? No. Oh my God. That was so bad. Ezra Miller. Off-camera stuff, irrelevant to this review right here. And maybe down the line we'll talk more about Ezra Miller and his future in DCU going forward. Ezra Miller in this movie playing multiple roles of himself. It was good. There are some parts where it was good, especially with the mainline Flash that you see there with Ezra Miller in our main DCEU. He was good. He was good. The other version of him with the long hair that he had, I just want to cringe sometimes. I just want to cringe with his laugh. I want to cringe with some of the dialogue choices that was given to him with the script. I can't love this movie. I can't like this movie either. I just can't. This movie it's not the worst thing in the world. If you want to see, here's my overall thoughts on it. If you want to see the movie, check it out. There's nothing wrong with checking it out. The cameos in this movie, there's one cameo, and the director actually spoiled it months ago, so I can say it. Nicolas Cage is in this movie. And the reason that's such a big deal, he plays Superman. He plays a version of Superman. Why is that such a big deal? Tim Burton was supposed to do a Superman movie, and then a guy by the name of John Schnepp actually made a documentary called The Death of, air quote, Superman Lives, end quote. What happened? Superman Lives was supposed to be a Tim Burton movie that he was set to shoot with Nicolas Cage. Him popping up in this movie for that cameo scene, it was cool to see. It was really cool to see. Not No Way Home. Oh my gosh, it's Andrew Garfield. It's Tobey Maguire. Oh my god. No, it was like, oh yeah, I know that. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Not like in some of the other cameos, especially in the theater I was in. The theater I was in, it was really packed. It was really packed with DC fans and whatnot. Most of them were wearing Flash shirts and whatnot and DC shirts. They were not going nuts for the cameos, especially for that one. They're not going nuts for the other cameos. I mean, the reaction in this movie was just so dull. And that's probably the feeling I have about this movie. It's just so dull of a movie. It's so dull. I'm like, It's very dull. And I won't be watching this movie again. James Gunn's new DCU can't get here sooner. This film was advertised, speculated, and confirmed by James Gunn that Flash, the movie here, will reset the entire DC universe and what we are going to be doing going forward with us, me, James Gunn, and Peter Safran at my side. The end scene to this movie makes no sense whatsoever. And I'm just going to say right here. Flash gets a call on the phone. And the car rolls up. This is after everything is fixed. And then he gets a call from Bruce Wayne. And then the car rolls around. And then I'm thinking to myself, are they going to reveal the new actor who plays Batman in Brave and the Bold? The upcoming DCU movie with Batman and Robin. With Damian Wayne. I was seriously thinking, because the voice was not Ben Affleck and the voice was not Michael Keaton. It was not Val Kilmer. I was listening to that voice, like you can hear the phone speaker as Barry Allen is answering from Bruce Wayne. I'm like, that's not either of those voices. And as the car rolls around and then he gets out of the car, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to reveal, the shocker. They're going to reveal who's going to be playing Bruce Wayne in this new universe. No, they don't do that. Who is the reveal, you may ask? George Clooney. He is back as Batman from that awful movie, Batman and Robin. What a dumpster fire that movie still is today. He's the reveal of Batman for his quick cameo of yeah, I'm Batman all along. What's wrong with you, Flash? That makes zero sense. That has nothing to do with the upcoming DCU and the reset that I was told was supposed to happen. Had zero sense ability in this. Made absolutely zero sense. Anyways, to close off this review, it is underwhelming than what I thought it was supposed to be. What I was teased this was supposed to be. I hope this, Blue Beetle, it looks exciting. It looks fresh. James Gunn confirmed that film and, that character at least will carry over into the new DC lineup with the new DC universe with that same actor playing Blue Beetle. I'm excited for that. The trailers for that look great. The last film of this old regime of DC with Aquaman coming out in December. It is said to be not a good movie. If this movie is not good, you want to talk about sour note to end DC, then they have put themselves in such a hole that I cannot wait to see how James Gunn's going to dig himself out of this hole and prop up DC, the new DC Studios, and Superman Legacy, the first film that's supposed to come out from this new studio. I am interested to see how he's going to dig himself out of this. Now, on to the next one. And we're going to start with this right here. And that is this. This movie was really, really good. This movie was really good. And I love Transformers. The first Transformers movie was really good. I get a kick out of watching 2 and 3. I can see why people don't like it. 4, I love Mark Wahlberg. I love Stanley Tucci. Number 4 was bad. Really bad. Then the 5th one came around. It was just, this is just so bad. So bad. So bad indeed. Bumblebee was a great movie, and that movie paid the price at the box office. It paid for the sins of Transformers The Last Night, the last of the Michael Bay movies, the last of that Transformers canon timeline. And this movie, Rise of the Beasts, confirms that Bumblebee was, in fact, a reboot of the Transformers franchise. And this is the continuation of that franchise. Bumblebee was the first installment. Transformers Rise of the Beast is the second installment of this new franchise. Not the best movie in the world. It's not Top Gun. It's not Avengers Infinity War. It's not Best Picture like at the Oscars. No, it's not that. It's not that at all. Of course not. This film, though, is so fun to watch. The jokes in this movie, I was laughing my butt off. It's not the Michael Bay humor where it's like, do we really need that joke? And there were a few corny jokes in this movie where it may turn some people off initially, but then they come back with a one-liner and the movie is like, man, that sounded really bad when I said it out loud. So they acknowledge that. They acknowledge some of the stupidiness, and then they just roll with it. And there is a joke between Mirage, who's Transformer Autobot, voiced by Pete Davidson, who does a great job voicing this Transformer. I love the interaction between him and the lead human actor in this movie. The back and forth chemistry was fantastic. There's a joke that this film set in the 90s. This film set in the 90s. 1990s. He makes a joke saying, hey, did you hear about this guy, Marky Mark, is getting into acting? He's going to get into, like, this Marky Mark guy is going to start getting into acting. Isn't that kind of weird? Well, where are we living? I'm like, yes. Awesome joke right there. I was just going bananas with the joke right there. Just nothing bad against Mark. He's great in the movie. I love one of the I forget the director's name. He did a rated R movie with Mark Wahlberg called Shooter. And Glover is actually how I know him. Glover from Angels in the Outfield as a kid growing up. And then he's also in the movie too. That movie is really good. I get a kick out of watching that movie. That's such a good movie. I don't care what anyone says. That's such a great movie. The story in this movie is standard, but you need something like that with a franchise. Like, you needed something like this. And it's not as good as Bumblebee. It's not better than Bumblebee. It's a good movie. It's better than Transformers 2 through 5. It's better than all the Michael Bay movies, and it's just teetering on being better than the first ever Transformers movie. Bumblebee is the king of that hill with that movie. This movie, it's not as good, it's not great, it's not better, but what this movie does, it takes the spirit, the heart, and the soul of that movie and carries it forward. It carries those philosophies, those building blocks forward and builds on top of that a better foundation for the movie. That's what this movie does. And the Maximals and Scourge, the villain, the sound design in this movie was so fantastic. The sound design is so fantastic in this movie. Definitely worth a rewatch for sure. I would say, yeah, go out and see it. You'll have a fun time watching this movie for sure. So that's my thoughts on that. And now the last one, and then we're going to wrap up this podcast episode for today. There are 3 things in life that I love a lot in the entertainment world. And that is like the sports stuff, which the Grizzlies, Tennessee Titans, and the one thing in the entertainment world that I love, first and foremost, is Spider-Man. Spider-Man is the hero, the superhero of my childhood growing up, and that is the superhero that continues to dominate Hollywood. That character continues to dominate. The latest film came out, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This film has had 2 delays to the movie. It was supposed to come out in June last year. It was supposed to come out in October of last year. And then it got pushed back to the date that is here in June 2023. The wait was well worth it. This movie, as Zach Van Blaricon would say to me the other day, this movie is fire. This movie is lit. This movie is awesome. The story in this movie is fantastic. Lord and Miller, who famously for the Lego movies, who did the 2 Jump Street movies, who were the lead producers on Into the Spider-Verse, who are also the lead producers as well in this new movie, Across the Spider-Verse. They have cemented themselves as one of the greatest, as the folks, in my opinion, to be trusted with this IP over at Sony. They're the ones to be trusted with this IP at Sony. The IP, when I say that, I mean anything that's not Marvel Studios related. These 2 guys should be hands-on with everything Spider-Man related. They should be hands-on with whatever live action that they do with a Spider-Man side character that they develop into a movie. They should be those guys now going forward. Not Avi Arad, not Matt Tomek, not anyone else. Especially not Avi Arad, who's been around. He just needs to he needs to be in bed already. He's old and he's stubborn as an old man over the Spider-Man IP property. He just needs to be in his bed already. Miles Morales' story in this movie. This movie is heart. This movie is all about heart, and it delves into what they call canon events, where something like try not to spoil the movie for you. There are moments in this movie where you see what they call canon events. In the MCU, it's called an absolute point, where something needs to happen. It must happen, or else all of reality is obliterated. We saw that in a little bit with Doctor Strange with the What If episode, with the centralized Doctor Strange episode. We see that a little bit in this movie, and it's carried out well. And the dichotomy between Miles and 2099, who is opposite of him in this picture here, Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara. Yes, the dichotomy between him and Miles Morales is really good. It's really good. It's captivating, and it is some of the best stuff that you'll see in a movie. And it's one of those back and forths where it's almost like Captain America: Civil War. Like, neither side is wrong. It's just philosophically, they have a different way of doing said good thing or avoiding said bad thing. Like in Captain America, especially in the comics, in the movie, it was everyone must be registered in order for us to maintain you guys, keep eyes on you, you come to our behest, our calling, so that way nothing goes off script and things get damaged, people get killed. And then there's the Captain America side that says, no, we have a constitutional right as human beings to be ourselves, all of that stuff. The similar thing is approached here with Across the Spider-Verse with Miles Morales and Miguel O'Hara. Save one life, or you can save one life, or you can save all of your reality, all of your universe. And that was in the trailer, so that's not spoiling anything. That was in the trailers. Save one life, or let that one life that you want to save die, but in the process, you save all the other lives. And this one life is close to you, by the way. So they do integrate a whole slew of cameos, and the sequence, the Spider-Man chase sequence with Miles Morales, I read somewhere that took over... Am I getting this right? I want to get this right. Let me look this up real quick. Spider-Man chase scene. Chase scene rendering. The chase scene that you see in the movie with all the multiple Spider-Man in Across the Spider-Verse, where they're chasing Miles Morales. That scene took 4 years to animate. 4 years to animate. That's all you gotta say right there. That is unbelievable to hear, and unbelievable to. It just goes to the fantastic work that the animation folks, the artists do there, and the multiple people rendering such edits and whatnot. That the work that goes into making an animated movie, like high budget or low budget, the work that is done on an animated movie is very gruesome. It can be very gruesome for the time it takes, especially during the pandemic where folks were like, oh, we get off work. No, the animators never got off work. They still had to work. So, yeah, 4 years to animate that chase scene. Gwen Stacy in this movie, great character arc between her and her father, and with Miles Morales. Great character arc whatsoever in this movie. And no, she is not trans. For those that have been saying online that, oh, she's trans, she's got the flag, and she must be trans and whatnot. Like, no, I dive into it on Twitter. I'm not going to waste my time talking about it right here. The notion of that is ridiculous. She is not trans. Imagine that conversation with Miles Morales. How awkward that would be. He's like, hey, you got a little something down there. Maybe not. Yeah, we can be friends. Yeah, let me go ahead and just throw my sketchbook into the fire pit right now. That'd be weird. That'd be so weird. No, that's not the case. No, she's not trans. Just stop it with that nonsense. The more I think about this movie, I loved No Way Home so much, watching it in the theater. It didn't have, Across the Spider-Verse didn't have that emotional impact as No Way Home did because I grew up with those movies as a child and seeing them again in culmination all together at once. It was unbelievable to see as a fan. This is definitely a better story. It's a better script. It's definitely a better script. Which also, for all these Spider-Verse movies, including the next one that's coming out, Beyond the Spider-Verse, all of them have been penned by Lord and Miller. Their writing on this movie is spectacular. And it's done to the T, and this movie should definitely get consideration for Best Picture for the Oscars, for sure. That's how good this is. Really good movie. The cliffhanger, I'm a person, I can't stand cliffhangers. I can't stand it. I knew going into this movie that this movie was originally titled Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1, and then Part 2 was supposed to come out a year or 2 years after that. Now, because the schedule rearrangement, it's coming out less than a year, thankfully. This is a Part 1 out of Part 2 movies. The cliffhanger in this movie, mind-blowing, but oh my God, I can't stand cliffhangers and having to wait for these movies. Now, you have films like Infinity War, famously. That is technically a cliffhanger. But that story it starts with Thanos and it ends with Thanos all the way through. It starts and ends with him. And he confused Infinity War like, oh, this is a Thanos movie. But ultimately, like, this leads straight into Endgame as a Part 1 out of Part 2, which, again, the title of that movie was originally supposed to be Avengers Infinity War Part 1 and Avengers Infinity War Part 2. Now, that cliffhanger is really good. That cliffhanger is really good. And when you go back and watch Into the Spider-Verse, there's obvious ones that they mentioned early in the movie. But there are other key things from the first Spider-Verse movie that they wrote, that you look at it in hindsight. They wrote those in advance, knowing what the story was going to be for number 2 or number 3 movie. That's unbelievable to me. Where you sow the seeds so minute, but when you look back on it, it's such a big thing to ignore. Little at first, but then in hindsight, it's, oh my God, why didn't we think about this before? That is so obvious now. They do such a great job with this movie. This is by far the best movie of the summer. Guardians 3 behind it for sure. And that's my take on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And as always, we're going to end the show just one more tag for Access Conference 2023. Just go. If you're an Access student, go. And be sure you go and sign up. There are just hundreds of spots left now. There are just hundreds left. Multiple hundreds left. So get your spots. So get signed up now. You won't regret it. And just to close out the show, thank you for the support that you give to this channel, by subscribing, liking the video, and other things. I appreciate the support, and as soon as I get a moment to do these, I'll gladly do these videos. Just, again, I just have a spare moment right now where I can do what I'm doing right now. So I appreciate the support and all the fun and all the love. I'm able to communicate with myself as someone that can speak like directly to you. And recently we've been doing some shoots for Axis. Some of them they've actually asked me to film in, per se. I'm not like this is part of the reason why I do this podcast. I'm trying to get more and more comfortable in front of the camera. I cannot do it if there's like an audience for some reason. Because when we are doing some of these shoots right now, especially one ridiculous one, I mean, I think it's ridiculous because I just have that embarrassment feel to myself. That sort of ridiculous notion. There's one thing we shot in the pastoral suite, the green room area. Oh my God, was that so? Like, there are some moments where it's so funny, but I cannot for the life of me stare with a straight face with this man, with this fellow man in his bare feet. I cannot stare a straight face with him like he does. Like, I can't do it with anything, or with the recent shoot I just did with a shot I just did with the rest of the gang there in the creative office. It was. I can't keep a straight. I don't know why I can't keep a straight face when I can't explain it. I just can't explain it. Like right now, even when I have a co-host, or when I had 3 people. I mean, a total of 3 people, me and 2 others. Like, it's a cool interaction thing. And I said to them, if you want me to be serious about this and not grin like 90% of the time, you need to get all these people out of the room that are not camera people and who are not the talent on the camera with me. You need to just get them out. Have them look through the mirror of the door. You just need to do that. Have them look through the mirror of the door, like the window of the door, and we can do this so convincingly. And it's going to turn into a comedy fest, and I'm just going to be so laughed at. Like, I digress. I digress, those folks. I digress, though. Yeah, this podcast is not going to get an edit because I just need to get this out. It's been a while. I just need to push it out there. All right, close out the show. Always support this channel by liking this video, commenting on this video, and subscribing to this video. We are closing in on 10,000 subscribers on this Kick It to the King YouTube channel, and that's something that I would have never fathomed when I started this YouTube channel back in 2011. That is something I could not have fathomed or nor imagined. So the fact that I can have, we're getting close to it. It's not official yet. If it does become official soon, and I get 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to be over the moon. Thanking you guys, thanking the community of YouTube and the online web, like the web stratospheres that may be of the World Wide Web. I'm apparently getting views overseas in India and over in England for some reason. So whoever you are, thank you. Thanks for watching the show. Thanks for watching the videos that I post on this YouTube channel and the collaborations I may have with other people. Not only on this show, but also on other other videos that I just like to do. We recently just posted a video and I'll try it, and I'll just bring it up real quick. Yeah, I recently just made a lyric video the other day. It's the song "Light Up." The song is called "Light Up the City" from the music artist called Cut the Lights. It's a lyric video. Why is this important? The Life Church Town is actually covering it up. But this song is in the Spider-Verse movie, Across the Spider-Verse. This is the main song when they're chasing him around. They released the preview of that clip online before the movie came out. I'm like, oh my God, this is such a good song. Like, the song's got me hooked. Like, as a song, it's one of those fast, upbeat, cinematic feeling songs where it's like, yes, I need to listen to this. I need to listen to this when I'm doing chores, cutting the grass, doing work at church. Like, it's like music fuel for me. And then the soundtrack comes out for this movie. The score comes out. This song's nowhere near it. The song's nowhere near it. I had to rewatch Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse a second time, and then I had to remind myself before walking out of the theater, stay through the credits and take photos of the music, of the music credits. Take photos of that and then go through them one by one. And then this was ultimately on that credit list. So this is not officially on the Spider-Man album. It should have been, though. So again, there's going to be folks that are going to be seeing this video, especially when you type in on a YouTube search, all stations stop Spider-Man song. This is going to be the first thing that pops up now. So thank you guys for finding that video, and I hope maybe you're a viewer that saw that video and said, hey, let me check the podcast. Let me check out this Cast It to King stuff. Let's check that out. I hope you stay around for some more fun, some more interactions with future guests I'm going to have on here hopefully in the future. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and just like the videos, share the video, and comment. Share with your friends. Like, that's one of the things I love doing with this channel is just being able to, no matter what the genre is, no matter what the category is, I love putting stuff out that I can not only get joy out of myself, so I can be able to just watch these movies just out of pure joy for myself, but for others to enjoy as well. So, I did put out the rap video that I did back in 2011, found in the archivals of the Life Church and whatnot. I will never watch that video just out of pure embarrassment for myself. And there are others that are like, you did such an amazing job. You're a legend for doing that. You did fantastic. I'm like, good. And then off screen, I'm like, oh my God, no. What was I thinking? There you go, Access Student. Yeah, find that video. That's what I did back in 2011. I was making rap videos, and then I was playing the drums Wednesday morning for a worship service. All right, that'll do it for this show. My name is Joshua Mickle, and don't forget, we're closing on 10,000 subscribers, and I can't wait for that day to come and then to do a podcast episode just talking about that for a brief moment. So, as always, again, my name is Joshua Mickle, your host, and as always, keep kicking it to the king.